guys, and welcome to my first video in this brand new series that I'm starting here on my channel, where I'll be looking at movies before my time, movies that came out before the year of 1995, which was the year that I was born. And this first movie that I will be reviewing is Big. Big stars Tom Hanks, and it was directed by Penny Marshall, and it came out in 1988 as a fantasy drama / comedy film. This film is really awesome. I really love this film. I kind of, as a child, I watched this movie once or twice with my parents, and I remember just liking this movie because it made me feel like, being a kid is actually a good thing, because all of us kids, we want to grow up, we want to be adults, we want to, be taken seriously, and that's kind of the case of what happens in this movie. It centers around this kid. His name's Josh Baskin. He's 12 years old, eventually played by Tom Hanks. All he does is he wants to be big, and he goes to this little fair with his family, and his parents are kind of embarrassing. They're very clingy, very attached like parents are, and they kind of embarrass him in front of, a girl that he likes. And I think what really tips him off is that he's trying to go on this roller coaster, but realizes he's not big enough to go on the roller coaster because you have to be a certain height. And so he finds this old machine that grants wishes at the fair, and he wishes that he could be big. And now the cool thing about this is the machine wasn't even plugged in, so you get that sense of already that, okay, this is very weird and very unique, and that his wish is actually going to come true. And he doesn't really think anything of it, but when he wakes up the next morning, he finds himself to be 30 years old. And it's a really great scene. I love when you see Tom Hanks emerge, and he's kind of like looking at himself for the first time, realizing he has like chest hair, and he's like realizing like, oh wow, like this actually happened. At first, he's enjoying it, and he really likes being an adult and, being big. And one scene, I think one of the best scenes in this film, is when he goes home and he tries to convince his mother that he is actually her son Josh, but she freaks out on him, and she actually has like a knife, and she's like threatening him and stuff. And I guess the 12-year-old boy, he has a birthmark on his butt, and so Josh actually ends up pulling down his pants and showing her like, look, I have that birthmark, and it kind of freaks her out, and so she calls the police on him. And so because of that, he has to leave. I think he lives in like New Jersey or something like that, and so he rides a bus to get into the city of New York, and he rides with his best friend Billy, and Billy is this really funny kid. I really like the child actor who played him a lot. I couldn't tell you his name off the top of my head, but he does a fantastic job, and he really has a lot of chemistry, actually, even with Tom Hanks, when obviously his best friend is 30 years old. So Josh goes into the city, and he has to become an adult. And I think one of the best things about him becoming an adult is he realizes the responsibilities of what it is actually like to be an adult. And I love his interactions with certain characters in this movie, and the way he still is so immature, and you could see the 12-year-old presence that Tom Hanks even was pulling from in this movie, and it really dug deep. And that's one reason why I think Tom Hanks was so deserving of the Oscar nomination that he had for this film, because man, he played an immature 12-year-old kid really well. Josh ends up going and working at this toy company. At first, he believes that he's working on the computers and stuff, and like putting data in and all that stuff, and then he ends up having a really good personal relationship with the guy who's in charge of everyone at the company, and he promotes him to being a vice president of product, and so he gets to basically test out toys all day. It's a lot of fun. You see the shift from the way that people looked at him from the beginning, looking at him kind of like an outcast, like he's really weird, and he just kind of seems super immature, till like towards the end of the movie where people actually start having respect for him. He develops a relationship with this female in the movie, and I think her name's Susie. And Susie, she works at the toy company, and apparently she has a thing for all the guys who work at the toy company. Like, she moves on from one guy to the next. And it shows like how she tries to act like she's super mature and she's all this, but because of Josh, she actually ends up becoming more personal, and she ends up becoming more loose and out of her shell. I think the chemistry between Tom Hanks and Elizabeth Perkins, that's what her name is, I thought it was electrifying. I thought they worked really well. They had a really good chemistry. And one of my favorite scenes in this film is when she's trying to seduce Josh, but he's so oblivious because he's a 12-year-old boy. She's like, oh, like, I don't know if we should do this, if we should stay the night. And he's like, you mean like sleeping over? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And he doesn't even try to put any moves on her. He has a bunk bed. He bought a bunk bed for his like really nice apartment. He's like, oh, I call top bunk, and so he sleeps on the top bunk. She sleeps on the bottom bunk, and it's really really fun. I think this movie shows you kind of it shows children like, hey, appreciate the years that you have as a kid, because when you're an adult, there's a lot of responsibilities, and it also teaches adults like, hey, be loose, live a little bit, don't be so serious all the time. And I know I'm a kid at heart, and I think this movie really captures that every single adult can still be a kid, and I really just love this movie. It's so personable. It's one of those movies where it just makes you feel good, and it just gives you that sense of appreciation that you are able to be a child, and that you're able to have fun, and that you're able to be an adult now and still take life seriously, but you're also to be able to have fun and be able to kind of get out of your comfort zone, get out of your shell, and just honestly just have fun with life, because you have one life to live, and you gotta live it just like Josh. I really love this movie. This movie is fantastic. Check this movie out. It is from 1988. It really does hold up really well to this day. It's aged very well, and you can see a lot of movies that have been affected by Big and actually have used that premise of Big in their own movies. Movies like Freaky Friday. I think even though it's a body switching movie, it still kind of has that same heart where an adult has to be inside of the teen's body, and the teen has to be inside of the adult's body, and they have to kind of figure out how to work out their differences. Another movie, 17 Again. 17 Again is one of the perfect examples, except for it takes it backwards, where instead of you have this 12-year-old who becomes a 30-year-old, you have like a 40-year-old who becomes his 17-year-old self. He has teenagers in high school, and he kind of has to like go around and try to figure out how to kind of get his life back on course. And then you also have 13 Going on 30, which is pretty much a knockoff of Big. And so you could see the influences that Big has had on entertainment today and with certain movies. And that's one reason why I love this movie, because this movie, it really had an original idea, and because of this original idea, other creators were able to create their vision of what Big could be for a certain other cinematic element or for a certain other plot or story. And I just absolutely love this film. Check it out. It really is worth a watch, and it's such a great movie. There's some humor in it that is more adult-like humor, but it is humor that I found to be just invigorating and just really speaks volumes to the standards that we're living in today. I'm not going to give it a rating. I don't rate any film. I'm just going to say check out Big. Big is it's a classic, in my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be doing many more videos like this, and the next one I'll be doing is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't know when it's going to be coming out for that specific review, but just keep track of what's going on my channel, because I'll be posting a lot more content each week. I am so grateful for you guys. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and go out and find movies before your time. I'll see you later.